So you're thinking about buying new construction in the greater Omaha area and wondering what that looks like and how long can you expect to wait? And that's what I'm going to give you answers for today. All right, and I have Jim O'Neill here with Nebraska Realty, and he is our new construction guru for the office, and I am excited for all the wealth of knowledge he's going to be sharing with us today about new construction in the greater Omaha area and just some of the developments that are going on and what you can expect to see if you are considering new construction. So thanks for joining me today, Jim. If you could just share a little bit about yourself and your role here at Nebraska Realty.
Jim O'Neill. I've been with Nebraska Realty since before we were Nebraska Realty, when we started out as Deeb Realty. So I've been here for 18 years. In 2009, I became part of the staff, working with new construction services and helping our agents that are representing builders, but also helping our agents that are doing new construction transactions, that are working with buyers that may have questions or may need additional information about new construction or the new construction market. So.
Definitely a laundry list of criteria that help you fit the bill.
There's always plenty to do. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, let's just jump right in. Maybe if you can share with all of the lag in build times and supply chain issues and all that's been going on in the last couple of years because of COVID, what do you see happening as far as can we expect any shortening of build times or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I think in that area, I think the market's going to stabilize a little bit. We're going to start seeing shorter lead times again. And none of that's the fault of the builder. I mean, some of it's due to COVID, some of it's due to labor shortages in the market, some of it's due to material shortages. And we saw home builders waiting on everything from windows to garage doors to various different things. And so that was causing frustration for everybody, not just buyers, but also the builders themselves. Mm-hmm. And so I think now some of that supply chain stuff is starting to catch up. So we're going to start seeing shorter lead times and some of that. I think some of that's going to start tapering down a little bit. And, new construction is going to continue to grow in the Bennington area. So.
Okay, awesome. And I think, were we saying it's around about maybe 10 months or so now?
Yeah, I'd say 10 to 12 months. I mean, I've heard guys shooting at numbers that are less, but for right now, I'd say, average. Just for safety, I'd say 10 to 12 months is probably a pretty good lead time. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is exciting to hear, and hopefully it only gets better in the coming months.
I think so.
And so what areas around the greater Omaha Metro would you say are seeing some of the fastest growth?
Well, Bennington is one of those. I mean, it's certainly because of all the things that are going on in that area. Certainly that's been a part of it, but we've also seen a more growth to the West Omaha as well. For the longest time, 204th Street was kind of the cutoff point for a lot of the growth, and now we've gone well beyond that. Mm-hmm. And there's developments going out in West Omaha in the 217th, 218th, 227th Street area. So a lot of growth in the Gretna, Elkhorn area as well, including Bennington. So a lot of expansion, a lot of new developments going in out in those areas as well. And there's going to be there's a lot of focus with affordable housing and new construction. So we're going to see some builders starting to do some very innovative things as far as we might start seeing more row housing, more shorter setbacks on lots, and homes a little bit closer together to try to be able to bring that affordability factor back in. So. Okay,
that's awesome to hear. And what about beyond building around the outskirts, any developments that are of note a bit more centrally located?
Well, one of them that's been there's been a lot of buzz about for the last few years is certainly the Heartwood Preserve area, which is the Boys Town development off 144th between Pacific and Dodge. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of focus on the commercial development piece of that, but now there's some things that are coming into place where you're going to start seeing more of the residential build out in that as well. They had the Heartwood Estates, which is on the other side of Pacific, where construction's already began in there, but now we're going to start seeing more of the Heartwood Reserve and Heartwood residents are going to start seeing construction in those areas as well. So, and that's was initially a nodal development, but there's other developers that are involved in that project as well now. So
it's such a big project. I'm definitely interested to see what that does for housing values in the neighboring areas.
Yeah, it's gonna. Well, and I think it's gonna do nothing but help the area. But I'm really interested to see how because there's a lot of traffic is going to be going through those areas. And I know there's been a lot of expansion on 144th Street. They're looking at expansion in Pacific Street. But I'm going to be interested to see how the traffic flow gets handled through all that as well.
Sure.
That's always been something that's been, when they announced that, I thought, wow, Dodge Street's busy as it is. And now you start adding all that in there as well. It's going to be interesting to see how that all gets handled as part of that. So
glad that's not our department.
Amen.
So for sure. Beyond style preferences, what tips would you share as far as like how somebody might go about choosing a builder to work with?
That's a great question. I think you just got to find somebody you're comfortable working with, and I think it's really a really good idea to work with a realtor when you're looking at possibly doing new construction. That way, you've got somebody that can kind of make that introduction to you. With a builder as well, but also I think you just got to find somebody you feel comfortable working with. If you feel like there's a struggle there, just know that it's going to be a long process. And if you're struggling with things early on in the process, you might want to rethink that a little bit because something. And I mean, it's not. I'm not blaming that on the builders. I mean, sometimes personality types just don't mix. I mean, and for whatever reason, two people don't see eye to eye on things, and so maybe that's not the right person for you. Maybe you need to look at finding somebody else. But a number of the areas where you're going to be looking, your builder preference might be based on which builders have lots in those areas as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine with as emotionally charged as a home transaction can be, and then
it is
money and personal preferences. You can definitely run into some.
And a lot of times people get so focused on the fact that they feel like the builders, and like I said, with all the supply chain issues and all the different things we've had over the past year, a lot of it was out of the builder's control as well. So, and they're struggling with it as well, and they're getting it from every side. So, I mean, I wouldn't want to do what they do. So.
That's why we have you here.
That's
We're glad to have you. And if somebody's looking in the area and, just getting the ball rolling, what would you say base price generally for like new construction in that area?
Right now it's pretty difficult to do anything less than about $400,000. So, I mean, you might be able to, with some of the production builders in the area, you might be able to get under $4. But probably more in the $400,000 to $500,000 range, somewhere reaching upwards of $400,000 to $600,000 range in some development. So.
Okay. And you mentioned the production builders. What are a couple of those?
You have Celebrity Homes, Legacy Homes, and then you have some of your semi-custom builders as well that also, they're kind of in between in there and the full custom builders. So, which gives people a lot of options. And we're really very fortunate that we have some of those production builders or volume builders because there's a lot of communities. We deal with a lot of communities outside of the greater Omaha area with our company, and we're very fortunate to have those types of builders because there's a lot of communities that don't. And for people that are looking at new construction in some of those other communities, your base starting price is in the high 400s. So we're very fortunate that we have those. So.
All right. And what would you say as far as, the question of like, do I really need a realtor if I'm considering new construction?
I think it's a good idea. I do. I mean, honestly, I teach classes on this as well, and one of the things I always point out to people is if you go onto the internet, go onto Google and just search buying a new construction home, there's a lot of sites that are going to pop up. Zillow, Realtor.com, Investopedia, they're going to give their top 5, top 10 things you should do when you're looking at buying new construction, and almost inevitably within that top 3 or 4 is use your own realtor. And I think that it is important, particularly based on the fact that if you buy an existing house, that timeline from contract to closing is somewhere between 40 and 60 days. Mm-hmm. If you're looking at 10 to 12 months and you think of all the issues that could come on an existing home purchase, take that times 8 or 10 months, and there's a lot more things that can happen in those transactions or during that transaction period. So, I think it is important to have somebody looking out for your interest in that situation. Plus, builders a lot of times have a representative working with them. A lot of times they have preferred lenders they work with and preferred escrow companies, and they do this 365 days a year. And I'm not faulting them for that. They're protecting their business interests in that. But if it's important enough for them to have that many people looking out for their interests, why wouldn't you as a layperson who's going to do this maybe 1 or 2 times in your life, why wouldn't you want somebody looking out for your interest in that transaction as well? So.
For sure. We were talking about that lawyer analogy. You know, you wouldn't go into a courtroom and say, okay, I'm here to represent myself, and then they've got a whole team working with them. So,
Right.
Yeah. I guess lastly, what important advice would you say buyers should consider when they're thinking about a new build or new construction?
Well, first of all, I think the first thing is find the right area for you, find the area you want to be. Because like I said, a number of the lots right now, with all the boom that we've had in new construction with the past few years, a number of the lots are already builder committed. Mm-hmm. So before you go out and start talking to builders, I think try to find the area that works best for you right now, because you might be limited to a builder or a group of builders that have a lot of availability in there. So it really isn't going to do you any good to go out and establish a relationship with a builder that has no lot availability where you want to be, and then you're going to spend the next 3 to 6 months chasing lots. So I think it's probably a better idea to kind of try to identify the areas you want to be. And sometimes I hear people or agents will say to me, well, my people are looking at all the greater Omaha area. And I tell them, you need to go out and start looking at developments and try narrowing down areas where you want to be. Then start looking at which builders you want to work with. So
Location, location, location.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And it's just been awesome being able to hear your perspective and all the knowledge that you have to share. And I'm so glad that we have you as a resource.
Thank you.
So, and if I recall, we even have the opportunity to sit down with buyers with you. If there are specific questions that they have.
And I always tell agents that as well. I said, if there's questions that are coming up that you don't feel like you can answer adequately, certainly that's something I'd be happy to sit down and visit with you about or help you get answers to. So that's I do that quite a bit. So
that's awesome. We appreciate you for sure. Well, if you found this helpful and you're getting great information out of this, make sure to smash the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget about the bell for notifications. I'm Kristi Wampler with Team Locale at Nebraska Realty, and I'm here for your family.